So the other thing that I've been wondering about, you look in the papers and you read, sisters fighting, parents and children fighting, arguing about estates. So do you see that a lot? Do people come to you and they can't agree on the very basics that we started talking about, trusts and wills and estate and so forth? And what do you do when a family's in conflict?
Well, okay. Probate litigation is sort of another whole area, I think, of specialty when you're actually litigating over these conflicts. I would say that in my experience, a bad estate is worse than a bad divorce because blood is thicker than marriage. But I would also say that very few estates are bad. It's just that the ones that are bad are very bad, and you hear about them. Look, the best thing you can do is give people good advice up front, to be transparent in their roles, in their fiduciary capacities, to be, oftentimes a trust will require a trustee to file an annual accounting. I try to work with families and financial advisors and accountants as a team. When a parent sort of, oftentimes if somebody does something maybe a little bit different out of the norm with their estate planning, we might have a family meeting up front. When somebody dies, it's good to either involve, if it's the right thing to do for that family, involve everybody in the process, or at least provide information about what the process is going to be, what the timeline is likely to be, what could interfere with the timeline, and then set expectations as well. Powers of attorney is sort of an interesting area because the transparency, the law doesn't dictate as it does, or the document typically doesn't dictate the requirement for filing an accounting like a trust would. So I tend to see some more, not necessarily conflict, but questioning in the area of somebody serving as an agent under a power of attorney. And I think just giving the agent, the fiduciary, good advice about how to be transparent, how to handle the situation, minimizes conflict.
There's a tremendous amount of information. It must be overwhelming. Somebody comes to you and they say, I'd like to get my parents started, whether it be wills or trusts or estate planning, what have you. It sounds like there's a tremendous amount of educating that you do. How does that work? Somebody comes to you, they don't really know anything because they've never been, at this stage of their life, and maybe not having been in the role of being a responsible party. How do you get started when all these things we talked about are extremely complex? Some of them I can follow, and some of them I can only imagine. They're just, you have all that training. How do you get started to go down that path and set all this in motion?
Oftentimes there's a lot of information that I need from the client to really get started. But I think the first question is, what are they hoping to accomplish? And then getting a sense of that, take it from there. And I'd say that experience really does matter. I feel really good about being able to work with people and counsel them in these tough times. You get to know people, and I think there's really a good sense of helping people.
Fabulous. I can't thank you enough for being with us and giving us all these insights into what you do. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to talk to you.
And now we're fortunate to have Eszter Vajda here to give us commentary on elder care. Eszter?
Thanks, Leslie. Baby boomers, trends show you are increasingly becoming your parents' caregiver. This is a big role reversal from what you're used to, and with it come big responsibilities. One area to watch out for, but often not discussed, is abuse. And I'm not talking just physical. Unfortunately, elderly abuse is a growing problem that affects thousands of victims across the country. Abuse crosses all socioeconomic populations and is not isolated to any particular race or gender. Partially, the increase in reported cases is because of the simple fact that seniors are the fastest growing segment in society, so naturally there will be more cases. There's also more awareness of this problem, and that is key. But the grim reality is that according to the National Center on Elder Abuse, about 10% or more of the senior population is abused, but of that 10%, only 2% is reported. So why is that number so low? For many seniors, there is an element of shame, embarrassment, and a culture that keeps them from asking for help or telling someone else of the abuse. Plus, many people don't know how to spot abuse. So, what is elder abuse? Some examples are physical, like inflicting pain or injury to a senior. Emotional abuse is causing anguish, stress, humiliation, or even threatening a person. There's also neglect, when the person responsible for a senior fails to provide basic needs such as food, shelter, healthcare, or protection. There's also self-neglect. These are important but often overlooked cases when seniors fail to take care of themselves, so that it could threaten their health and safety. And more recently, there's been increased reports of financial abuse when scammers or trusted people take or conceal money, property, or assets without the senior's consent. The good news is that there are several organizations and communities across the country not only providing resources, but also helping change that culture of shame and fear and foster more empathy towards victims. They include Safe Havens Interfaith Partnership Against Domestic Violence, district attorneys' offices, senior centers, churches, temples, and others. The bottom line is that it has to be a cooperative effort that combines faith-based organizations, law enforcement, attorneys, and critically important community members who must be vigilant and aware so abuse can be either prevented or spotted and properly reported. Incidentally, Massachusetts law requires certain people like faith leaders, doctors, police, and social workers to report elder abuse immediately. But it is incumbent on all of us, whether on that list or not, to report elder abuse. Not only is it morally the right thing to do, but it is beneficial to all of us. If you suspect abuse, you can report it to the Massachusetts Elder Affairs 24-hour hotline at 1-800-922-2275. Now I want to know what you think. Email me at esterandvajda@gmail.com. Thanks for watching. Leslie, back to you.
Thank you, Esther, and thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time on Boomer Being.